Hello everyone, welcome to LolKing's Pick of the Week. My name is Shakrez, and each week we'll be highlighting a champion that we think is really strong in the current meta, whether his popularity comes from ranked games, competitive play, or even both. Today we look at Pantheon, played in the top lane. Now Pantheon has always been a very strong lane bully, but seldomly played in competitive. However, the fact that he has a lot of favorable matchups against the most popular top lane picks right now, combined with strong itemization, makes him a very strong pick right now. In ranked matches, he's extremely strong as early kills can translate into an insane snowball effect. Let's start with his setup. For runes, you want to run armor penetration marks, armor seals, cooldown flat and per level glyphs, and attack damage quintessences. However, there are many alternatives. Going full AD in marks and quints is also a great option. If you're facing an AP laner, you may want to take magic resistance on your glyphs instead, and seals can also be health, flat or per level. Overall, you just want to have a setup that helps your early game. You want to get early kills and dominate lane, so you should look to have a setup that reflects that. For masteries, you want to run 12-18-0 with Thunderlord's Decree to amplify your burst and short trades. Storm Raider Surge is a good alternative if you want extra mobility after using your combo, or even Deathfire Touch if you prefer amplifying your poke damage with Spear Shot. Again, a very offensive setup to match Pantheon's identity as a champion. The 18 point and cunning are preferred as precision gives you flat penetration for the early game. Now on to skill order, there are two different options you can go for. Maxing your Q, Spear Shot, is usually the most common route, as it gives Pantheon a lot of poke and allows him to whittle down his opponent before going all in. This is what you should be using if you're going against a ranged matchup or a matchup where you don't want to go melee to trade. Maxing your E, Heartseeker Strike, is also a valid choice for matchups where you can go melee and want to constantly go up close and personal to trade with the opponent. In either case, Aegis of Zionia is maxed last as the stun duration doesn't go up with ranks and the cooldown only goes down slightly per rank. Onto his item build, you want to start Corrupting Potion for most of your games. Not only does this option give you sustain in lane, it also favors aggressive laning as hitting enemies while a potion is ticking down will do extra magic damage over time. You want to build into Yumu's as your first item and get it as soon as possible. You want it as the item gives you a huge chunk of AD, armor penetration, and cooldown reduction. The active on it also means you're better at closing the gap to reach your targets in order to stun them. From there, it will depend on your needs and how the game is going for you. If you're playing against an AP laner or an AP heavy team, you should look to build Maw of Malmortius. Sterax is an insanely good item as it gives you more tankiness while still giving you damage, and Black Cleaver is the indispensable Pantheon item as it will further improve your armor shredding and give you a ton of much needed attack damage and cooldown reduction. With Black Cleaver, you'll also get movement speed whenever you hit a spear shot, so it makes him even scarier and more mobile. Your boots should be boots of swiftness most of the time, as you really want that extra movement speed to be able to close the gap to use your W on someone. However, Mercury's treads are a good option to reduce incoming crowd control. Late game, you can finish off by going more tanky or for another damage item. Duskblade is extremely strong on him right now, and if you need to be more durable, Deadman's Blade or Guardian Angel are solid options. Now that we've looked at Pantheon's setup, let's talk a bit about how he works in different stages of the game. In the early game, Pantheon is a very oppressive champion that will often try to bully out his opponent out of lane, preferably doing so by killing him. Pantheon thrives off of early advantages and wants to be ahead in order to snowball out of control. From level 6 onwards, you should look to use your ultimate to impact the map. Pantheon has the unique ability to sneak out a gang from afar, so it should definitely be used to your advantage. You can either ult to mid lane after pushing out your lane, or simply ult from base after backing, but the objective should always be to catch your opponents off guard. From mid game onwards, you preferably have already established lane dominance and taken your turret. Pantheon is an extremely strong champion in picking off stragglers, so you should constantly look for opportunities to force a small fight or a 1v1 and try to get more kills. In the later stages of the game, you need to be more careful with how you approach fights. Always look for stragglers over a full-blown team fight, as that is what Pantheon excels at. If you do need to team fight, you need to look for flanks and a chance to assassinate the back line without being blown up. These situations require a lot of coordination with your team, so try to tell them what your intentions are so you can make sure you don't use Grand Skyfall into a bunch of enemies and blow up before you can even blink. Ideally, you want to be able to go in and kill someone fast, usually their squishy AD carry or mid laner. Now for some tips. Remember to use your passive to your advantage. With Aegis protection, after applying 4 basic attacks or abilities, you'll block the next basic attack from an enemy champion. Your W stun also activates your passive, but it won't reset your stacks, so you can potentially block 2 auto attacks in a row. This makes Pantheon an extremely strong turret diver, as his passive also blocks turret shots. In a tower dive scenario, you can be blocking multiple turret shots by correctly stacking up your passive beforehand, and then using your stun and other abilities to stack it up multiple times in a short period of time. Other than that, it's important to note that Pantheon's Q and W have the same range, so ideally you want to Q before you W in order to maximize cooldowns and your DPS. However, they might flash out after seeing you close in, so you need to decide accordingly to the situation. Lastly, you'll need to get used to your ultimate's channel time, so sometimes you'll have to ult slightly behind or to the side of where your target is, predicting where he will move. You can also cancel your ultimate with a movement command. Remember that your ultimate can also be used situationally as an escape tool. That's going to be all for this week. If you enjoyed this week's video, be sure to leave a like and leave a comment telling us what champion you'd like to see next.